What's good, y'all? It's Ray Raglan. Let's appreciate the records. Um, I've obviously already done a couple videos, so you'll probably see the title with this, and this is a little bit different. Today, I will be reviewing Lucki's album, Drugs Are Bad. Um, so, for those of you who don't know what I do, I have like an intro, what I like, what I dislike, my favorite songs, and then I give my final score. So, I hope y'all enjoy. So yeah, let me just tell you a little bit about how I got into Lucki. I've known him for a long time, and I'm glad to have witnessed just this big part of his growth. Uh, because I remember I used to look up type beats because like everybody used to make music back in the day. And I remember I would always look up because Baby Keem at the time he had a mixtape that was really really good, and he always had like this specific type of beat that I was trying to find. And every time I look him up, Lucki would be right next to him, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't really know who this guy is. I should tap in a little bit. And then when I listened to him, I was like, you know. But as time progressed, I would see his name more and more, and then I'd somehow like end up listening to him. I think it was because after a whole lot of Red dropped, he dropped Wake Up Lucky with Filthy, um, and I was in Atlanta at the time, and that's when I first really listened to Lucki, and I was like, okay, some of this stuff is cool, some of this stuff is bad, you know what I'm saying? But I ended up actually really liking that project. And then I think what really made me a fan was listening to Flawless Like Me, because that's what a lot of my friends were like, telling me, yo, listen to this guy, yada yada yada. And that's when I started to really be tapped in with Lucki. Um, I think some Lucki fans have to let go of him, like trying to return to his older sound, because like with time comes progression. Like that's just not gonna happen. Um, I don't really want Lucki to be 30 rapping about the same things he did when he was 20, because he was just rapping about abusing drugs and heartbreak and stuff like that. And I think Drugs Are Bad is a more refined version of Lucki, where he talks about a lot of different things. Um, and yeah, man, I think this album just really highlights a new growth, and I'm really excited to talk about this one. So yeah, what I like about this album, I think this song gives me the Lucki, or this album gives me the Lucki sound, but it feels turbocharged. That's kind of like the best way I can describe it. The features all went insane on this album. I like how Lucki's starting to open his world up to other artists, like Lil Baby's a perfect example, and I think literally like he had a like almost like a career resurging verse with that Can't Be Trusted feature. I think Lucki, he has this crazy like lean flow, which is like he kind of showcased it on the Gemini outro. I don't know if it's a lean flow or like some or like a whip it flow. I don't know what it is, but like it's when his voice gets like super deep, not in a Cardi way, but not in a Lucki way. If you know, you know. But he hit that flow a couple times during this album, and I was just like, oh my god, this is different, but it's hard. It's really hard. I really like it, bro, because it's really unique and it makes him sound unique. And he always hits like these crazy pockets with that voice. So I really hope I can hear more of that in the future. But I also really liked how Lucki got more melodic on this album. If you know him, you know like, he doesn't really do auto tune like that, and that's why a lot of people didn't really like Lucki at first, is because you think he's just like, in a sense, like at least how I thought it was at first. I thought he was like whining, when really he was just trying to like stick with the cadence of the song. Um, so I mean, just hearing him in auto tune just sounds really fire. One of my favorite songs by Lucki is Beverly Hills to 35th. So like I kind of liked how he really hopped into this bag for most of the album. I also enjoyed the aesthetic of this project, because it doesn't feel like, or because it feels like Lucki incorporated kind of like this drug PSA promo into the rollout, and the sound of the album. Like I feel like Stupid Prizes, Keep It 100, Please, and then outro, they all kind of sound like, oddly enough to me, like a drug PSA promo, which I really think is interesting. I also like a lot of the mob bars in this album. I think he had a Sopranos bar that I was really enjoying, because he compared himself to Tony Soprano. So yeah, there's not a lot of dislikes, but something that I do dislike on this project is that the mixing sounds a little off. Because I know Lucki, he has like a certain flow that he has, but I think the mixing just doesn't bring it to its peak, in my opinion. And then I think also just sometimes a lot of themes of like repetition where he talks about the mob, talks about Barbie women and stuff like that. Like it's cool, but like since I've listened to it a lot, sometimes it starts to get really redundant, and it sometimes hinders the listening experience. So those are a couple of my dislikes. For my favorites, an honorable mention, I got Midnight Series. This is a song that I think actually leaked, and I heard a little bit of it, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. But it really shows how Lucki kind of bolstered his, or how he boasts his rock star lifestyle, which includes substance abuse, women, and motivation to remain financially stable. I think it's definitely a song that I like to listen to in order to just get locked in, because like he said like, ain't see the day where I go back broke. Like that's real. Like that's some real rap right there. So that's why it's my honorable mention. At 3, I got Twin Flow 2 / Godfather featuring V's, man. The iconic duo is back again and they never miss. I swear to God, man. These guys need to drop a collab album whenever the time arrives. The production, I mean, it literally feels like a purple cloud. That's the best way I can describe it, man. They snapped on this genre going back and forth because I think this song kind of made V's and Lucki get a little introspective. Like, they continue to describe the negatives of drugs while boasting about their lives, which I think is really interesting. And they're two of the only rappers that I think can make songs like those. You know, where that's credit to their songwriting ability, their bars. There's a one line where V says, you praying on my downfall, I'm gonna send you to hell, which is crazy. But like, I think just like the rawness of that bar is like the reason why it's so good. And then there's another, like, in the same song, what I really enjoy, like Lucki, he talks about just seeing his son grow up and stuff like that. Like, I like to hear the introspective nature of these artists, because it's just like it really shows kind of like the yin and yang of them, but also like it just makes them way more relatable to the fans, and just also showcases why they're one of the best duos in rap right now. So yeah, shout out to Lucki and V's for that. At 2, I got this song is the definition of turbocharged. Picky Demons, man. It took me a minute to really understand what this song was, but I love the vibe of it. Lucki has this melodic slurred flow, which kind of gives a reference to, and it also gives a reference to this song called "It's Tricky" by Run DMC. It reminds me of like a Whole Lot of Red type song where there's not a crazy hook, but it's structured to feel like a full track, while making like separate parts of the song. And I feel like there's only a select number of artists that can do that, like Lucki being one, Cardi, V's, like Ken Carson. There's not a lot of people that can do that, but it's like this new generation of rappers that can do it, which I really enjoy. The vibe of the production, I think, reminds me of like what drugs are supposed to do to you, and it, like, basically, like, first there's nothing, and then it just brings you into this like rush of a magical experience. And then obviously Lucki still has heart-shattering bars. One of the bars that I picked up was he said something like, he was like, try to do everything you say so I can't blame the drink. Which is like, dang, that's deep. That's really deep if you really think about it. So, shout out to Picky Demons. My favorite song on this album has to be the outro, Yesterday on My Face. This song really had me just really thinking about life. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, just because of how much of a great melodic performance that Lucki put on this, because you can really hear the pain that he was just singing on this song. And just the instrumental, I think, just adds more to the depth and the emotion of where Lucki's trying to come from. It really does feel like he's kind of having like a breakdown on this album, or on this outro, and and like it's kind of poetic, It feels very relatable because he talks about how his heart has led him into making bad decisions, which includes like both through drugs, which is like the main subject of this album, and then also love. I think he also talks about how his consistent love for drugs have hurt his relationships because it's making him unstable, which is like deep. You know what I'm saying? This is like, at face value, fans think that Lucki's just like, but he's really saying some like real stuff. You know what I'm saying? And this is like one of the songs where I'm like, dang, like he's super poetic, and he's filled, like he's such a complex rapper because he's filled with sorrow, um, and like he just makes it sound like it's normal, and he makes it sound like it's almost like fun to do that. You know what I mean? When in reality, like it's destroying him, and that's what he's talking about on this song. So I think this outro is really really good. I love this song, man. I literally almost shed a tear to this song. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. Um, so yeah, man. Props to Lucki for making this. Conclusion: this album, I give it a score of 7.5. I think Lucki delivered with this project because it sounds very modern whilst carrying the qualities of older rap, like sticking to similar themes, creating sequenced bodies of work. He incorporated a lot of dare branding and imaging to tell the story about how people expect rappers to live this luxurious, drug-filled lifestyle to the point of destruction. Which I think this is a really good way to showcase that argument. I think the reason why I didn't give this song an 8 or this album an 8 is because thematically it's a little hard to decipher. But overall, this album is such a vibe that like it doesn't really matter. Um, Now that I know Lucki participates heavily in a lot of these activities, but I think his self consciousness allows this album to have a great perspective on the positives and negatives of drug culture. Um, which I think again like just goes to how great of an artist that he is. I plan on listening to this project a lot this year, and I really want to hear what other people think. I've heard a lot of varying opinions on this project, and I think that's a sign that this album is really good. If you have different opinions, so yeah, man. If you like it, dislike it, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, hype, and yeah, man. I'll catch y'all soon, man. Appreciate the records, man. Let's get it. Let's go.